A woman recently shared with me that she feels surrounded by people, her husband, her kids, her faith community, all of it, and she still feels profoundly alone. And not alone in the way we imagine living on the side of a mountain, somewhere without a car, can't get into the grocery store in town, not that kind of alone. She's moving through her days, doing exactly what you do. Homeschooling, cooking, managing a household, loving on her kids, reading books, answering questions, holding all the different pieces of a really busy homeschool mom life together. And still, nobody is really seeing what that's actually costing her. Here's what makes her story particularly resonant. She has a rich, complex inner world. She's analytical. She's been writing her observations about life for years. She journals. She notices things that most people don't put time toward. And she doesn't feel safe sharing any of it, not publicly, and not even with the most important, closest people to her. She spent years helping everyone around her feeling seen and feeling emotionally validated, but she feels starved for that same experience herself. When we first met, she couldn't actually name that, but she felt it. She felt that she was the most present person in every room and somehow felt the least seen. And that's why she came to me. And today I want to tell you what happened to her because she no longer feels that way. And I want you to know how she got from there to here. Her name for today is Donelle. And her story is a real messy process of a woman trying to find her way back to herself inside a homeschool mom life that she loves with a family she absolutely adores and still somehow lost track of who she was underneath it all. If anything in Donelle's story sounds resonant for you, if you've heard yourself somewhere in her story, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Confident Homeschool Mom podcast. I'm Teresa Wiedrich, the homeschool life coach, graduated homeschool mom, and author of the coaching course, Stop Losing Yourself, the Homeschool Mom's Guide to Boundaries, Confidence, and Calm. This is the podcast for the mom who looks capable on the outside, but feels scattered and unsure on the inside. I spend my days being the support, the clarifier, and the cheerleader for the woman behind the homeschool family. My work focuses inward because I know that the most important curriculum in your homeschool is you. Many moms believe that if they just find the right curriculum, plan the right routine, or be a little bit more consistent in using their routines, then they will not be overwhelmed. But I've learned it's not really that. Overwhelm has everything to do with the internal pressure, the perfectionistic expectations we have of ourselves, and the shame-based scripts that we carry inside. I've learned that not only are you the most important curriculum in your homeschool, but you deserve a seat at your homeschool table too. Now let's get into today's episode. So I first met Donelle through an intake form. When someone signs up for the Aligned Homeschool Reset session, they fill in a form that helps me to know a little bit more about them. She shared with me that I find I'm too often alone in my mind. I need someone who can relate with me. I probably need more friends. Maybe you can help me not feel so alone in my mind. Her words might be unique to her story, but I've learned that losing yourself as a homeschool mom, that feeling is common amongst many homeschool moms. Nobody loses themselves all at once. And what does that really mean? It's not like you lost a child in the department store. You've spent so long putting everyone else first that one day you finally look up and you cannot answer the simplest question, like the one that I often ask moms. Who are you when no one needs anything from you? Here's what that looked like for Donelle. 5 ways that it crept into her life. But I want to pause here because I know this pattern happens from the inside. I came into awareness that I didn't know who I was either. I didn't know what I felt or what I wanted. And I realized I was engaging in relational behavior that wasn't reflective of who I was and what I really wanted for my life. I was always trying to make sure everybody around me was feeling good. And I wasn't asking myself, do I want to feel good? How can I feel at peace in my own world? How can I feel more connected from within? Until we really get to the place of asking ourselves those questions, we have a hard time really naming what's going on outside of us. So this is what I want to address specifically, because this is what Donelle spoke to as well. You lose a sense of yourself when your emotions and your thoughts are always circulating outside of you, into your kids, into your partner, into your parents, instead of going inward and asking, who am I? What do I want? What do I need? What do I feel? We're so busy attending to everyone else's needs. It gets tricky to go inward instead of asking ourselves, am I okay? There are 5 things that I heard Donelle say about her own world that helped me understand that she was losing herself. And I wonder if you resonate. The first thing was that she became the emotional container for everyone. When her girls were anxious, she was on it, trying to dispel their anxiety. When her son was frustrated and losing his temper, she had to ask, why? Surely there must be something that I'm missing that I need to attend to so he doesn't feel that way. Or when her husband needed something emotionally and didn't even understand that he needed it, but she could see that he needed it, then she tried to address it. It didn't matter if it was her husband or her son or her daughters or the homeschool or her faith community or the household. She held all of it. She was the emotional container for everyone. She also gradually came to understand that she was performing. She did not realize she was performing because she wasn't intentional about it, but she also knew she didn't feel safe enough to be the truest her, whether it was in her faith community, with her parents, or with her husband. She felt like she had to rush through conversations, otherwise she wouldn't get listened to. She was always managing how she was perceived, asking herself, what will people think if I say that in that way? Instead of just being present and being honest about who she really was. She didn't identify as being a performer, but she came to understand that she was indeed masking in a lot of social situations. Another way that it crept in was that she felt like she lost her voice. Many people can use that in different ways, but she'd been writing her observations about her life and about her faith and about a variety of things for years. She was articulate. She was not sharing them with almost anyone because she thought that she wasn't safe enough to share them with others. What would they say? So her creativity and her observations did not get declared publicly. The 4th thing I noticed was that she ran on very little internal emotional fuel. She was fueled rather inconsistently. With and by her own words, she shared that she felt truly productive only 1 or 2 weeks a month. The rest of the time, she felt like she was functioning from depletion. And that'd been going on for a very, very long time. And the last thing I noticed is that she questioned everything. Her choice to homeschool, sure, but also her marriage. Whether he was the right one, whether she was damaging her kids by not always showing up emotionally, whether she wanted to throw it all away and buy a plane ticket to anywhere and not let anyone know where she went. Quote, unquote. These are the kinds of statements that someone makes when they lose the center of themselves. But she put it this way, I'm often alone in my mind. I'm wondering if I'm losing myself in the process of this homeschool mom life. And I need someone who can reflect back to me what I'm really feeling and thinking. It's a pretty big event in a woman's life when she comes to understand that she has not been deeply aware of herself or honoring of herself, that she doesn't know herself. She doesn't know what she wants. That shift rarely comes in a big dramatic moment. For Donelle, it came from a coaching question that I offered her and a quiet evening of her writing afterward. That's all she needed. That was the beginning of her shifting toward herself. What really helps us sometimes to shift toward ourselves is to feel validated that our experience is normal, and it is. To recognize that we are going through something or that what we feel, what we're experiencing matters. I don't think it's a coincidence that I meet many women in this particular challenge of the overwhelmed homeschool mom life at around the age of 40. I don't have a double-blind randomized controlled trial. I just have hundreds of women who happen to be challenged with this form of overwhelm at around the age of 40. I'm noticing it. We've been so busy for so many decades attending to others around us that we have not seen ourselves fully, But when someone doesn't flinch and they ask us the tough questions, the truest questions, they reflect back to us what we are saying, that is when we can begin to get a clear picture of what's going on in here. What also can help us create a shift toward coming back to ourselves is to name the patterns, to really unpack and understand what has been happening or what's been running our reasons for attending to everyone else. Then when we make just one tiny little shift, a 1% shift, when we make that 1% shift towards asking ourselves, what do you want? Who are you? What do you need? It feels like an earthquake. It's huge. We've never done that before. Is it selfish? Am I selfish? Am I doing wrong by my family? Because I'm asking me if I want to occupy all of my days doing other things for other people. It is uncomfortable. It is brave. And it is required to moving back to you. You do that 1% shift practice long enough, you begin to recognize that you are doing something very important, not just for your daughters, but also for your sons, and frankly, also for the little 8-year-old you that needed you to do this for decades. And you look at that tiny little 1% shift and you say, I'm proud of myself. I did something for myself. I'm addressing what I need. I feel fuller and truer and more me than I ever have. And surprise, I actually have more energy to be more present with the people that I love the most. I show up better for them all. My relationships with everyone around me is better because I'm being truthful about who I am and what I need. And I was brave enough to put that 1% shift into the realities of this big homeschool mom life. For Donelle, naming it looked like 8 words. Specifically, she chose these 8 words. That was the same night as that session with the big question that she journaled on. And she sent me those 8 words before our next time together. She said, Teresa, these are the 8 words that I need to focus on. Stop criticizing. Start loving, respecting, and honoring me. Those were her words. The moment that she began naming what was really running her inner narratives, that is when things started to lose their grip on her. I've always found it intriguing that just a self-awareness practice can be so profoundly shifting in our world, just by seeing it. Because as I've said before, when you see it, you can't unsee it. For her, stop criticism, start loving, respecting, and honoring me. What would you say? What are your words? The words that you need to name about what's been running you. So that's the moment that really began shifting for her. A moment of journaling after a coaching conversation. But how does she find herself again? She named what was most important, but actually finding herself was kind of the point of this entire process. So how did she actually move in that direction? Well, here's what she has actually done. And of course, this journey is not complete. It never is. But for her, she tended to her needs, her emotions. She took up a specific exercise practice every morning. She started meditating before bed. She put it on her phone to remind herself. And when she felt especially animated by a conversation or argument with someone in her family, she decided to leave the room to check in with herself to feel what was actually going on for her and why she was feeling what she was feeling so she could bring it into that conversation and express what she really needed, respecting and honoring herself. She's also learned to define fun on her own terms. You know what she likes to do? Things that her kids didn't necessarily like doing. She liked playing a particular musical instrument. She liked doing the things that were on her list. And when she put something on a list, she expected she would do a couple of them. But she also wanted to spend more time doing spontaneous things. So she scheduled it in on Fun Friday. She also told me, and this one is a little unconventional, her version of fun is not feeling rushed. Spoken like only a homeschool mom could do, especially a homeschool mom of tweens. It's common to feel rushed because we have too many things on our list. She did a time audit and learned that she was investing an awful lot of time doing activities that both her and her kids didn't want to participate in, but everybody else was doing them, and everybody else was doing them a lot. And there were just too many things in her week for her to feel like she couldn't be rushed. So she just needed to delete them, even though everyone else was doing them. Fun can be very different for all of us, but she defined fun on her own terms. Then she did something just for herself. She booked a motel for 2 nights so that she could write and write and write and finally decide what she was going to do with that writing. She was going to start a podcast. That podcast is still in process, but I will most definitely let you know when she's begun to release it. Even though that effort hasn't been complete and she hasn't put that out into the world yet, she feels proud that she knows she can do it. She's going to invest the time to do it. And she didn't do it because somebody else said this is the right thing for her, but she knew that this was her way of building her community locally and also her way of offering wisdom in the world. She asked for what she needed instead of hinting, instead of hoping that someone would actually clue in that she needed something. She decided to tell her husband that she wanted to go out on a date night regularly without the kids, to have a babysitter available every 2 weeks, that no matter what, they would spend time doing something fun together. She didn't wait for her husband to invite her. She invited him. She stopped hoping that he would guess what she needed. She also started creating again. So I told you about the podcast, but she also started sharing publicly on Facebook about her own experience of coming back to herself, about learning to break her generational patterns. For a woman who's kept everything inside and felt very alone inside of her own mind, this was a remarkable step, putting herself into the world. She also chose her marriage consciously. Rather than just going through the motions of being married and doing what they've always done, she asked herself a few questions to get clear on whether she wanted to be in a relationship with him, how she knew for sure, and how she could practically choose him from day to day. She reflected on that later with me. She said, I reframed a major story I had been telling myself about my marriage, and it shifted how he experienced me and how I then experienced him. She later told me I'd cheered myself on, realizing I have so much of what I need already. I love him, and I am excited to continue this life with him. I've shared with you about Donelle, and I wonder if you resonate with her. I want to briefly tell you about another mom too. She had been listening to the podcast for a few years, and she'd come through one of my boundary building workshops. That's where I first met her. She realized she was always the rescue. Her older boys, a couple of them who were almost adults, were not tracking their own schedules and they were not getting their chores done. Routinely, she discovered that they were needing her to drive quickly to football practice because they were going to be late and they had not even finished the chores that their dad had asked them to do. So she told them a few weeks in advance, there will no longer be me rescuing you when you need something. If you haven't finished your chores, and if you aren't able to get out the door in good time, I am not available to drive. And she felt incredibly uncomfortable telling them that. It was unlike anything she'd done before. I remember being in the garden when I received the message from her, and she said, Teresa, I cannot believe I did it, but I did it. I felt for them, but I didn't step in. They didn't make it to football practice on time, and I didn't smooth it over. The coach was not happy, but you know what? They never did it again. From then on, everything they needed was ready by the door. Chores were done before practice because they knew if it wasn't, there'd be no ride. She told me it felt really freeing. She was surprised at how free it was. She didn't have to live inside everyone's heads and thoughts and feelings anymore, constantly hovering over what was or wasn't getting done. She is honest that she's still working on that with her husband. She still presumes she has to be the absorber of his needs and emotions, even though she knows in her head that this is not true, but she has a hard time not doing it. That part's still in progress for her. Growth in one relationship doesn't automatically transfer to every other relationship, though it definitely seeps in and breaks through eventually. This is what I want you to take from these stories. You don't have to blow up a marriage or quit homeschooling or return kids to where you found them. That might hurt for you, like it would for me. You don't even have to overhaul a life in one fell swoop, nor do I think you possibly can. But you don't have to do all these things. It simply requires A small 1% shift coming home to you inside the life you're already living. Donelle told me once that she wanted to be at peace, to be herself. Not free to be herself, but at peace being herself. I think there's a difference there, because freedom isn't you trying to become someone you're not. Freedom doesn't have to be someone or something you have to fight for. Freedom is just peace to be. Peace is something that can settle into you when you finally stop abandoning yourself and be present with yourself. What you need, what you feel, what you think, what you want to do with your life. So I ask you, when was the last time you felt at peace just being you? And what would it take to find your way back to her? If you resonate with that question, if you recognize yourself in any part of Donelle's story, here's where you can begin. If you're someone who already likes to read or likes listening to audio, if you like actionable tools that actually move you towards your goal of coming back to you, and you like meeting me in the comment section once a week, I offer you a coaching course that I call Stop Losing Yourself, the Homeschool Mom's Guide to Boundaries, Confidence, and Calm. You'll find the course link in the show notes. But if you also want to do deeper one-on-one coaching that's very specific and customized to you, I dig deeper and I help you recognize the patterns that are particular to your scenario, the way I did with Donelle. And if you're not sure which one is right for you, either the one-on-one coaching or the coaching course, then just sign up for a free aligned homeschool reset session. We'll talk it through. And if one-on-one is the right next step, then that's where I'll guide you. And if it's the coaching course, I'll let you know too. So here's what I want for you right now, today. I want you at peace, not somebody chasing after the next thing and next perfect homeschool season, not chasing after the season of when the kids are older and the house is quieter and clean. I want you to be able to stop performing, to take off that mask and start feeling your way home back to yourself, because you're there. You have been there the entire time, underneath all the managing and the driving to the library and the getting the food on the stove, even though you just pulled it out of the freezer. You've been there the entire time, checking on everyone except yourself. It's time to stop abandoning her. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Just go be at peace to be her. I'll see you in the next episode.